No, it doesn't, but it does address an awful lot of things that we do agree on. And I don't think the fact that those checks are not a part of this package, as others have said, is a good argument for not doing what we are laying on the floor.
So that was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell answering a question about stimulus. And basically, in that answer, giving a middle finger to the American people. So now, basically, he was asked, hey, is there going to be stimulus for the American people in this stimulus bill that you are negotiating with Nancy Pelosi that you want to push? Now, Pelosi actually does want some stimulus measures for the American people, including those $1,200 checks, to be part of the next stimulus package. Unfortunately, not going to happen. Mitch McConnell saying, no, we're not going to put that in there. I'm not putting that in there. And so he is signaling, of course, that the only thing that Democrats and Republicans can agree on is more relief for corporations. Awesome. Now, if you didn't think that ignoring the pain of everyday Americans who are struggling wasn't bad enough, well, apparently he has been behind the scenes sabotaging any attempts at a stimulus deal altogether. According to Common Dreams, written by James Johnson, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell told Republican colleagues on Tuesday that he has been privately urging the Trump White House not to strike a coronavirus relief deal with the House Speaker before the November 3rd election. So he's telling the White House, don't do a deal. Don't do a deal. Whatever you do, don't actually do a deal with Nancy Pelosi, because I'm assuming that he's saying, well, we're going to shut it down. We're just going to shut down that deal because we don't actually give a damn about the American people. So now why in the world, if you're facing a difficult election, which, let's be fair, Mitch McConnell is not. Mitch McConnell is going to crush Amy McGrath. We knew that already. Amy McGrath is a disaster. She's one of those corporate Democrats. And so she's going to get crushed. She's polling very, very badly in Kentucky. So he's not in danger, but the Senate majority kind of is. Because there are some pretty competitive races that are going on, including, of course, Lindsey Graham, who could get replaced by Jamie Harrison. So who knows, right? As far as polling, of course, Donald Trump, I think it's very, very possible that Donald Trump loses this election, again, because of mostly COVID. I mean, if you want to say that anything is responsible for Donald Trump possibly losing the election, if he indeed does lose, it would be his response to coronavirus, as well as the Republican response to coronavirus, which could cost them the Senate. And so now, why would you block that if you actually want to win? Well, he said that in a warning to his colleagues that any agreement might interfere with the chamber's plan to confirm to Russia confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court early next week. Oh, right. So they're like, forget coronavirus stimulus. Don't care. Don't give a goddamn about the American people. No, what we want to do is we want to rush through our Supreme Court nominee before we don't have a chance to do so. So, of course, that means decades of having a supermajority on the Supreme Court for conservatives. And so, yeah, it makes sense that they're going to leverage their power now in order to keep power for literally decades in the court. When it comes especially to to their power, of course, Mitch McConnell's power, comparative to the needs of the American people, Mitch McConnell is going to choose power every single time. We know that. Again, even if it costs them the Senate the short term, understand that Mitch McConnell and the Republicans are actually long-term thinkers. This is where they kick our ass. And I'm totally honest about that. They are kicking our ass, and it's because they actually have long-term plans in order to do so. So now, the reason that they can sit there and think up these long-term plans is because they don't actually have any plans to do anything. Their entire platform is, and this is what they are, they're a vessel in order to just cut taxes for rich people. That's all the Republican Party exists to do. Give rich people more money. That's what they're about. If you think Republicans, we're the party of freedom and liberty and blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. They're about cutting taxes for rich people. That's their entire existence. Anyway, and of course, look, how Amy Coney Barrett is going to help with that. Well, I mean, look at Obamacare. Obamacare, the main reason that Republicans don't like it, because it's their own goddamn plan that came from Mitt Romney, is the fact that it did raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans in order to pay for this stuff, in order to pay for some of the subsidies, in order to help people be able to afford insurance through the ACA. That's it. And of course, Obama. You got to add that in there. But I think that's more of a red meat reason. But anyway, again, as far as McConnell's concerned, yes, we'll take a short-term loss in order to get a long-term victory, which is having a supermajority in the Supreme Court. And so he's got that political calculus all laid out. They rush Amy Coney Barrett. They lose 2020. But of course, the next time the senators are up for re-election, they can retake the Senate after doing nonstop obstruction for the next 4 to 6 years. And that's what it is. I mean, we've already done this before. That's exactly what happened back in 2014, or in the lead up to 2014, the midterms, where Democrats got crushed and ended up losing the Senate to Mitch McConnell in the first place. And so understand that this is a setup to having basically crushing austerity, even if Joe Biden wins, because if we have crushing austerity, well, they still win because, again, they deny the Biden administration even very modest victories, both in the Supreme Court and in Congress as well. And so then they can make the argument, well, look at how ineffectual the Democrats are. They can't get anything passed. Yeah, because it's your fucking fault. Doesn't matter. They've got that messaging machine all laid out to try to get, voters who are low information voters to vote for Republicans because, well, I got to have something to change, right? And we're not getting anything done with the Democrats. And so I guess we'll try with Republicans. It's the same cycle that happens every couple of elections. It swings back and forth, just like this. So understand that that's absolutely part of the political calculus here. And it's what they did to Obama, and they stonewalled him from doing anything, and it's exactly what they're going to do to Joe Biden. Obstruction, understand, is their biggest tool. So what does this mean for you? It means don't expect a relief package before the election or anything really even afterwards, unless there's a gigantic win in both the Senate and the presidency and Democrats keep the House. It's got to be a complete political wipeout for there to be any sort of relief. And Democrats also have to be, bold enough, and good luck with that, in order to overcome any sort of Republican opposition in the Senate in order to pass something. So, again, don't expect any help, which of course is going to be disastrous for the economy. It's going to be disastrous for regular people. Again, we've had months and months and months of no COVID relief. Democrats passed a bill back in May. The Republicans sat on it since, 6-7 months at least, and then finally pushed out a couple of super awful bills, which ensured liability protection for corporations, some money for the Paycheck Protection Program, which we find out even ended up going to defense contractors in order to build jet engine parts, and just all this ridiculous stuff, and didn't really actually go to small businesses. It went to very, very large corporations who were able to game the system. And so that's the problem, okay? But it also did give a little bit of money to unemployment, but of course, not enough. But let's be honest, Republicans, we know, don't want any more additional spending. They just don't. Most Republicans in Congress say, no. In the Senate especially, say, we're not going to do any more spending. The hell with that. Helping the American people, we don't want to help the American people. We want to help our corporate donors, and that's it. And again, many people have pointed out McConnell is laying the groundwork to force crippling austerity under a Biden administration. This is Pramila Jayapal, co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Here's what she said. She's a House member, by the way. Quote, let's be very clear about this. Mitch McConnell and Republicans are continuing to block essential relief to Americans across our country. if Trump wants to go big or go home, he better see if he can control his own party. Donald Trump, look, he's not going to control anything. Okay, Donald Trump is 100% ineffectual. He knows that he is losing, and interestingly enough, that's actually why he wants a deal with Nancy Pelosi in the first place. I mean, originally he said, no, we're not going to have a deal until after the election. And then he's like, oh, my God, my polls are terrible. Okay, Nancy Pelosi, let's do a coronavirus deal. Let's go really big. I want to send even more money to the people, and we want bigger checks. Republicans say, absolutely not. We are not going to do that. But again, the reason that Donald Trump wants this is because he's broke. He's broke, and once he loses power, those bills are going to come due. And not only that, look, he's got all of these investigations into him. He's got unpaid legal bills that he's going to have to pay. And so he wants to stay in power very, very badly. And he thinks that sending a check with his name on it is going to help him in that capacity. I don't think so, even though I'm not opposed to him sending out another check. Of course. Look, but those $1,200 checks, by the way, which is what we would likely have gotten, even if Republicans would agree to a deal, it's not enough to offset the economic pain that most people are actually feeling. Even before COVID-19, 40% of Americans couldn't afford a $400 emergency. It's even worse now. You've got layoffs that are at their highest level since August. You have hunger on the rise. In fact, according to data from the Census Bureau, about 22 million Americans reported that their household struggled to afford enough food last month in September. You've got the Trump administration allowing for evictions to go forward. You also have the Trump administration trying to kick 700,000 Americans off of their food stamp benefits by putting in work requirements. The administration doesn't care about regular people. They just don't. They don't care about working people. They don't care about people who are unemployed as a result of coronavirus. They don't care. And they also don't care, by the way, if you get sick from coronavirus and die or end up with long-lasting, permanent damage to your organs, which also is a result of coronavirus. And so it's a disaster. David Dayen of the American Prospect also put out this warning. He said, quote, whatever savings low-income Americans have managed to build up with the CARES Act relief will be gone before any other help arrives, and another pandemic surge deeply complicates matters. Well, we're already seeing that surge all over the country. We're already seeing cases tick up in many different states, and of course, we're seeing hospitals starting to get overloaded, and we're starting to see all this negative stuff that is happening that, by the way, Fauci and the other officials in the coronavirus task force were warning us about. It is happening, and it's an absolute disaster. Dayen continues by saying many of the few still extant relief supports expire by the end of the year. It's disgusting to now have a man-made depression on top of the pandemic-made one. And he's absolutely correct about that. This has become a man-made humanitarian disaster. And I don't just mean in aid, okay? Most other countries, they provided a UBI, $2,000 a month, or some sort of paycheck guarantee that's equal to about the same amount to every adult since the pandemic started. Many of these other countries also have universal health care, child care, services to help families. In America, what do we get? Some temporary unemployment benefits and a $1,200 check. That's it. That's it. Now, it's a great example of what happens under conservative rule. They don't give a damn about you, and it shows, especially when you compare us to the other countries. And what's worse, we had the highest death toll and the highest number of COVID cases in the entire world, despite having a very small amount of the world's population. We are, in effect, a failed state. We're an abysmal disaster, okay? And the Republicans don't care. They have no shame about it. Mitch McConnell has no shame about it. In fact, he's thrilled because he knows he gets to continue fucking the American people whether or not Donald Trump wins and Republicans keep the Senate. Because he's going to keep fighting to continue fucking us. Because that's who Mitch McConnell is. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.